As this case moves forward, Mr. Robinson's constitutional rights will be protected at every stage. He sits before this court presumed innocent, and that presumption remains unless and until each element of every offense charged against him is proved beyond a reasonable doubt.
They say a nation is never the same after an assassination. The wound does not heal. It lingers, bleeding into politics, into communities, into conversations at dinner tables and classrooms alike. A name becomes attached to that wound, repeated endlessly on the news, etched into history books, whispered in anger and disbelief. And now, that name is Tyler Robinson. To the justice system, he is the accused assassin of Charlie Kirk. To much of the public, he has already been branded guilty. But to those who know the fragility of truth in high-profile cases, his story is still a question mark, an unresolved storm circling a single devastating act. This morning's hearing provided the world with its first extended glimpse into how this case will unfold. Not through grand testimony, not through dramatic courtroom eruptions, but through the calm, deliberate voice of Judge Tony Grath, who presided over the virtual appearance of Tyler Robinson. It is striking, almost chilling, how uneventful it looked on the surface. A young man on a screen, lawyers still adjusting their files, a judge reminding everyone that innocence must be presumed until proof is given. Yet behind that simplicity lies the machinery of justice preparing to decide a life. Robinson's defense has now been formally assembled. Catherine Nestor, a capital case veteran, leads the charge, with her stand Michael Burt and Richard Novak, two attorneys whose resumes reveal years of work defending those the state sought to silence forever. Their very presence signals that this will not be routine. The stakes are life and death, liberty and confinement, truth and narrative. The courtroom itself was hushed, but outside, the noise was deafening. Protesters gathered, some demanding punishment, others urging caution. News cameras swept across faces, capturing the division that now defines the story. On one side of the barricades, placards with Kirk's name written in bold red letters. On the other, signs pleading for due process, reminding the public that trials are meant to uncover truth, not rubber stamp assumptions. But ask yourself, when was the last time a trial of this magnitude ever truly escaped the grip of public opinion? When names like this are involved, do we even allow the process to work? Or do we consume it like entertainment, demanding an ending before the second act has even begun? The judge scheduled a preliminary hearing for October 30th, 2025. It may seem like a date on a calendar, but in reality, it is a national deadline. That day, the prosecution must present evidence strong enough to convince the court that a trial is warranted. But what counts as enough in a case like this? Is it physical evidence, eyewitness accounts, motive, or is it something far less tangible? The weight of expectation, the sheer pressure of a country watching with folded arms and sharpened opinions. These are not idle questions. They are the questions that will decide whether Tyler Robinson spends his future behind bars, or whether the cracks in the state's case might begin to show. And yet, we return to the same haunting question. How did it come to this? How does a relatively unknown young man become accused of ending the life of such a polarizing public figure? Were there missed warnings? Did someone, somewhere, fail to connect the dots that could have prevented this moment? Or has Robinson been swept into a narrative too big for one man to bear? Consider the history of assassinations in America, from John F. Kennedy to Martin Luther King Jr. to political figures gunned down at rallies and marches. One truth repeats. Society always asks the same questions after it's too late. Who allowed this? How did no one see it? Could we have stopped it? And time after time, the answers are muddled, incomplete, or deliberately obscured. Will this case be any different? Or are we simply watching history repeat itself? Another assassination, another trial, another cycle of outrage and unanswered questions. Robinson appeared calm, almost detached during the hearing. Some will see that as indifference, as coldness. Others may see it as the only way a man in his position could endure such scrutiny. A screen separates him from the rest of the world, but in reality, it may as well be a wall. He is cut off, isolated, reduced to an image debated by strangers. And yet, the defense attorney's presence sends a message. They believe this case deserves to be challenged. They will not allow prosecutors to present a neat, uncontested narrative. They will picket every claim, demand proof of every word, drag every hidden piece of evidence into the light. But can they succeed? Can they cut through a narrative already hardened in the minds of millions? Can they force us, the public, to pause and admit we do not know the full story? The media has already chosen its angles. Headlines call Robinson the assassin. Pundits debate motive as if it has already been proven. And in the age of social media, where a rumor can travel further than a sworn affidavit, perception often matters more than fact. Here lies the true danger, the blurring of justice with performance. The courtroom becomes a stage, the evidence becomes content, and a man's life hangs in the balance while millions consume it like a spectacle. But what if the story isn't as simple as one man with a gun? What if Robinson is not the mastermind, but the front face of something larger? What if the state is not telling us everything? Or worse, what if the state itself is desperate for someone, anyone, to carry the weight of responsibility so the nation can move on? Unsettling questions, yes, but necessary ones, because if we fail to ask them now, we may regret it later. October 30th will bring evidence. But will it bring truth? Or will it bring a polished presentation designed to satisfy public appetite? Will the courtroom doors open to transparency, or will selective details be revealed, carefully curated to maintain control? This is why we must watch closely. This is why we must demand more than surface answers. And if you want to follow this story as it unfolds, if you want to see what is revealed and what is left unsaid, make sure you subscribe now. Because the story of Tyler Robinson and Charlie Kirk is not going away. It will grow louder, it will grow darker, and it will challenge everything we think we know about justice. For now, Robinson remains accused. For now, the hearing is simply preparation. But beneath the calm legal proceedings lies a storm of questions we cannot ignore. Stay with us, because this is only the beginning. The October 30th hearing is set, but the questions are already heavier than the answers. And when we analyze the case closely, piece by piece, it becomes clear that the road ahead is more complicated than anyone wants to admit. Let's start with the evidence, or rather, the lack of clarity around it. Prosecutors have remained tight-lipped, hinting that they have what they need, but refusing to show the full picture. What does that mean? Is there physical evidence tying Tyler Robinson directly to the crime? A weapon? Forensics? Or is the case built primarily on witness testimony, statements that can be swayed, altered, or torn apart under cross-examination? If the evidence is strong, why hide it? And if it is weak, why push forward with such force, knowing the stakes are nothing less than a man's life? Then there is the matter of motive. Why would Tyler Robinson want Charlie Kirk dead? What connects their worlds? Did Robinson act out of ideology, political anger, personal grievance, or was he a pawn in a larger game? Without motive, the story feels incomplete. Without motive, the crime feels more like a narrative created to fill in blanks than a case rooted in truth. And yet, the state seems confident. But confidence is not proof. Confidence does not convict. Look at Tyler Robinson himself. He sits quietly, appearing only through a screen. To some, his silence feels damning. To others, it is the silence of someone drowning under the weight of accusations too large to fight alone. His attorneys will argue that silence is not guilt, it is survival. But will the public listen? Or will they continue to read every expression as a confession? Now consider the atmosphere around this case. Outside the courtroom, emotions rage. Supporters of Kirk demand punishment, chanting, holding signs, insisting that justice must be swift. Others, fewer but no less determined, remind us of due process, warning that society has condemned men before without full proof. History supports their warning. Wrongful convictions are not rare. And once society decides someone is guilty, the system often bends under that pressure. This is the knife's edge the court now walks. And the judge knows it. That's why he said it aloud. Innocent until proven guilty. Not as a formality, but as a warning. He knows how fragile fairness becomes in the face of a nation's rage. He knows how quickly balance tips when millions are watching, waiting, demanding an outcome. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Justice is not only about facts, it is about perception. And right now, the perception is that Tyler Robinson killed Kirk. No trial has yet occurred, no jury has been sworn, no evidence has been tested before the public, and yet a large part of society has already decided the verdict. Ask yourself, in a case this explosive, can any jury truly be impartial? Can any judge truly remain untouched by the roar outside the courthouse doors? And what if the prosecution's case falters? What if the evidence is thinner than expected? Will the system allow Robinson to walk free, or will the sheer need for closure force a conviction regardless of doubt? These are not easy questions, but they are the only ones worth asking. Because if Tyler Robinson is guilty, then the nation must confront the chilling truth that someone so young, so ordinary, could carry out such an extraordinary act of violence. And if he is not guilty, then society must face an even darker reality, that the true hand behind Charlie Kirk's death is still out there, unseen, unaccounted for, while another man bears the blame. Both outcomes are terrifying. Both outcomes leave us unsettled. And so we end here, not with answers, but with questions. Questions that will grow louder as October 30th approaches. What evidence will prosecutors reveal? Will Robinson's defense team find cracks in the story? Will the court resist the tidal wave of public pressure? Most of all, will justice truly be served, or will this case become another chapter in the long, troubling history of trials where truth was lost beneath the weight of outrage? Stay with us, because this is not the end. It is only the beginning. And if you want to follow this case as it unfolds, every revelation, every hidden detail, every uncomfortable truth, make sure you subscribe, because the story of Tyler Robinson and Charlie Kirk will not be forgotten. It will haunt us, question us, and force us to confront what justice really means in America today.